Welcome to Rick's Corner, brought to you by Old School Labs, the brand I trust and the only one I put my name to. Use my code DRAYSON12 on the link below.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. The man, the myth, the legend. Now on with the show.
Hi, welcome to Rick's Corner. I wanted to let all of you know the reason why I'm running some old shows is because of the COVID virus, that I can't get anybody in here to sit and do an interview. Right now, I'm wearing masks and having the separation of 6 feet. It's almost impossible. And to find somebody to go on the internet to do this that is old school sometimes doesn't work because they don't know how to use a computer. So that's been my issue. Plus, I haven't been well. I've had a kidney problem, in and out of the doctor, and I thought I was going to the hospital, but I actually talked my way out of it. And now we're back up, getting the kidney back in shape where I can function properly again. It was just not working properly. So in the meantime, rather than not have a show at all, I thought I'd bring you the best of Rick's Corner, because there's so many good shows and good people that I've had, and share those with you. So for you that comment that say, oh, I've already seen this show, I don't care, then don't watch it. No one's asking you to, and you're not paying money, so you're not losing anything. But there's a lot of new people who haven't seen these shows that really like it. Just look at the comments. Every day you pick up new viewers, and they want to see something different. And I have these old shows that are good, and they're current now with what's going on in the world. So might as well watch them. Anyway, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I wanted to explain that to you. But soon I'll be getting new guests on. As soon as this virus is over and we can start having people around us, I will fill up my books with new guests. Thanks for the understanding, and thanks for being patient. Stay tuned.
Rick's Corner, I got Jerry Brainum back. You guys ask for him all the time when I got him to come out and visit me. And today we're going to talk about something you guys all know about, and it's testosterone.
Right.
It's very important to the body.
Yes.
And you can't become a man without it.
It's also very controversial, Rick.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I mean, there's all kinds of myths and misconceptions. The medical profession issues a statement in all the medical journals. What they say very often is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? What they're saying is the reason why a lot of men are low in testosterone as they age is because of other health problems like heart disease, diabetes, obesity. So it's not the testosterone causing this. In other words, they say people have it backwards. A lot of people think that the low testosterone causes all these diseases. A lot of doctors say, no, you got it backwards. It's being unhealthy that causes the low testosterone. But you can't get away from another fact, and I'll tell you what that is. Every year after 30, and every man, your testosterone drops each year 0.2 to 2% per year.
I thought it was 40, but...
No, it's 2% per year. Now, think about it. By the time you're 60...
You got none.
You got like 35, 40%. And, this has nothing to do with disease.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on is, there's two kinds of what they call hypogonadism is the medical term for low testosterone. There's two basic kinds. One has to do with the level of pituitary. So your actual testosterone production is controlled by what they call gonadotropin releasing hormone,
right,
which comes from the hypothalamus. That goes into the pituitary. It stimulates two more gonadotropins, which is follicle stimulating hormone. That goes into down to your testes. It stimulates basically sperm.
Is this what HCG does?
No, I'll tell you that in a second. I'll tell you that it's related to what I'm saying.
Okay.
The second one is called luteinizing hormone. Now, luteinizing hormone travels in the blood, goes down to the testes, right? Now, in the meantime, your body, of course, your liver is always making cholesterol, and you take some cholesterol in food. Cholesterol is the raw material for testosterone, right? Now, what happens is it's carried in the blood through a protein carrier made in the liver called low-density lipoprotein. I know this is a little technical, guys, but you'll see where it's leading up to in a second.
Okay.
Now, when that cholesterol gets down to the testes, right, it's basically ready to be turned into testosterone.
Right.
But something's got to spark it. And that's luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone goes down to the testes. It stimulates what they call a rate-limiting enzyme, which converts the testosterone into pregnenolone. Then there's a cascade of other enzymatic steps, about 5 or 6, and it becomes testosterone. Now,
but we don't even know that's going on.
You don't even know what's going on.
It's while you sleep, it's going on.
All the time.
Those little guys working with hammers and chisels.
You got it. Okay. It's happening all the time. Your testosterone, by the way, peaks about 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when and then it gradually goes down, but the way, like in the afternoon, evening, it tends to be a little bit lower. But in the morning, that's why when you get it, if you get your testosterone tested, guys, you always have to do it like between 8 and 10 a.m. because that's when it naturally peaks. Highest, right? And here's a little tip for the guys that take testosterone injections, something like that. If you want a slightly better physiological effect, a lot of people don't know this. if you take your testosterone, when your testosterone naturally peaks, which is between, let's say, 8 and 10 a.m., your body will be fooled into thinking it's a natural testosterone surge, and there'll be less chance of side effects.
Oh, so you should take it in the morning?
Yeah, it actually thinks it's a more natural thing. It's just a little trick, you know. It really doesn't make a difference. I mean, if you take it later, it's still going to work, you know what I mean? Right. But if you're worried about side effects, might cut it down a little bit, right? Okay, now, what happens in older men is that something happens. You see, the part of the testes that produces testosterone is called the Leydig cells. Now, what happens as you get older, and this is what starts at age 30, the Leydig cells start to kind of like not produce, they kind of like, even though they're getting that luteinizing hormone signal, but for some reason they don't respond, less and less each year.
Yeah.
Why does it happen? There's a lot of theories. The major theory is it's from years and years of oxidation. Like other hormones, like for example, epinephrine, which is secreted, all these hormones, they kind of go through the blood supply of the testes, and they tend to cause an oxidation effect, which just slowly destroys the Leydig cells. So even though your pituitary is still working, right, this is called primary hypogonadism, when it's at the level of the testes. Even though your pituitary is still kicking out that luteinizing hormone, it's like the Leydig doesn't hear it. You know, it's like yelling across the room, "Hey, you, hey!" And the person is going like this. He doesn't hear. So your body's trying to kick it out. So when that happens, your testosterone drops. Now, another controversy, and this one I'm sure you, I don't want to poke you, man.
You keep touching me.
Let me put my hands behind my back.
Go ahead.
Well, anyway, the thing is, see, another major controversy is, of course, the prostate cancer thing. I mean, I've dealt with this myself. I mean, I'll give you a little anecdote. You know the pro-hormones, right? We talked about that. A couple of years ago, a guy sent me these pro-hormones, right? This is, I don't know, about 8-9 years ago. And he says they're all safe. And, you know, this guy was a knowledgeable guy. And I took them. I hadn't taken steroids, nothing, you know. I took this stuff. I didn't expect much because it's over the counter. I figured, what's it going to do, you know? Right. I go to the gym, and I'm thinking, I don't feel anything. I didn't feel nothing. And I remember I was talking to this guy, and I was loading the leg press, and I wasn't paying attention to the weights. And I'm looking at the guy as I'm, doing it, and I pumped out 15 reps, and then when I get up the leg press, I look, it's the weight that I usually get 4 reps with, I suddenly got 15 with.
From the pro-hormones?
From the pro-hormones.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And I started growing and growing and growing, right? But it turns out that, unfortunately, what the guy didn't tell me was that these pro-hormones, and I found this out later, had what they call designer steroids in there. That's why they work so well. They were real steroids, and they made me strong as hell. I was doing incline curls with 70 pounds. My arms were bigger than my head. It was like insane, Yeah. But here's the bad part. At the time, I went to have a medical test, and just for curiosity, I knew what my test. I said, I'm gonna see my test. I'm gonna have them check my testosterone. It must be through the roof. I mean, the way I'm gaining like this.
Was it?
So I have the testosterone. 2 days later, I get a call from the doctor. He says, "Oh, I have to tell you, there's something wrong with your test." I said, "Oh, what's that?" He says, "Well, your testosterone level is less than a 100-year-old man." What? What are you talking to? He says it barely shows. I'll tell you what it is. This stuff caused a tremendous suppression of that luteinizing hormone. In other words, it basically cut off what they call the hypogonadal axis. Yeah. In other words, the signal down to the testes, in other words, it turned off my testosterone completely. So I was dependent on this pro-hormone, but to take this test, I laid off the pro-hormone for about 2 days because I wanted an accurate reading. Yeah. So by that time, you have to understand, the testosterone that was being produced by the supplement was gone. So I basically went to that test with like having my balls cut off.
You didn't have anything in you.
Yeah, it's like I was castrated when I had that test, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so all right. So I say to the doctor, I said, "Look," I said. I told him the truth. I said, "I've been on this supplement." He says, "Well, get off it." I said, "Oh, obviously, okay, I'll get off it." But in the meantime, I work out in the gym. I got to have some testosterone. I said, "Can you give me some testosterone?" I said, "Look, I'll take the cream, I'll take the gel, whatever you want to do, patch. I just got to have some, because I already started getting symptoms. Yeah. My muscles were hurting. I was getting a little depressed. I was having sex problems. That's another major symptom of testosterone." But the guy says, here's the point I'm trying to make. He goes like this. He says, "I wouldn't give my father testosterone if he had zero testosterone."
I've heard this so much from doctors.
I said, "Why? What's the problem?" He says, "Don't you know," this is the honest truth, guys, word for word, "don't you know that testosterone causes prostate cancer?" And he was talking to the wrong guy, because I had just done a bunch of articles about it. I leaned back, I said, "Listen, doctor," I said, "I'll tell you what," I said, "are you a betting man?" And he looks at me funny. He says, why? I said, I want to bet you right now, bring a witness in, $10,000 if I could prove to you that testosterone does not cause prostate cancer. He said, how are you going to do that? I said, I have a box of papers, probably 100 papers in there that will prove otherwise. And I didn't want to go into details with him. Instead of like saying anything, he goes like this to me. He says, I graduated Stanford Medical School. Which medical school did you graduate? And I said to him, I don't have to graduate medical school not to be an idiot. And I walked out. He left him scratching his head.
Yeah, there are doctors like that. They just don't understand.
Yeah. So basically, without going into a lot of detail, I'll just say real fast that the notion that testosterone causes prostate cancer is based on a study that was published in 1941 that involved one patient who was castrated, right? Mm-hmm. This guy was castrated, and they gave him testosterone, and it seemed to stimulate prostate cancer, right? Okay. But here's the deal. Now you can say, well, isn't that proof? That sounds like testosterone, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. What they found out in the last couple of years is it's just the opposite of what doctors tell men. In other words, they tell men that testosterone causes prostate cancer. In fact, what happens is having low testosterone for many years, what they call hypogonadal, for the reasons I just discussed, sets you up for prostate cancer if you take testosterone. Because what happens is a lot of men, as they age, almost every man, a little medical fact, every man, if he lives long enough, gets prostate cancer. But he usually dies of something else like heart disease or cancer. Heart disease or some other kind of cancer or something like that. But what happens is you get this thing called intraepithelial neoplasia. It's a medical term. What it means is abnormal cells in the prostate. It's the beginning of prostate cancer, right? Now, it turns out that men who are low in testosterone for years have this little abnormality, right? Now, it's like having a gun where you're ready, the trigger's pulled, you're ready to pull the trigger, the gun's cocked, but you haven't pulled the trigger. Now, when these guys start to take testosterone, that does interact with those abnormal cells, and you can get prostate cancer, see? But in a normal guy who doesn't have any damage to his, most guys don't. This is like a unique situation. Most guys don't have that damage till they get much, much older, right? Now, when they get, you'll say, well, what about all these bodybuilders that are taking, 2,000 milligrams of testosterone? How come they're not getting prostate cancer? Yeah. And here's the answer. Because it turns out that the prostate gland has a saturation point where it will only accept normal blood levels of testosterone. Once you get past that, it's like a door shuts, and the testosterone does not affect the prostate. So even these guys that are taking massive doses of testosterone, 5 different kinds of steroid, they're not going to get prostate cancer. Right? Unless, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all BS, And then there's the thing about, I just wrote this in my newsletter, I don't know if you heard the thing about, the big thing now with testosterone is it causes cardiovascular disease, right?
Tell me about the cardio thing.
Okay, now two studies came out about last year, and they basically implicated testosterone in causing cardiovascular disease, right? And what's amazing is all these guys in the medical journals, the scientists, they always talk about the scientific method. Briefly, what that means is 1 or 2 studies don't mean a damn thing. For something to be scientifically valid, it has to be replicated in study after study after study, and it has to be human studies. No rat studies, no test tube studies. This was 2 what they call observational studies, epidemiological. In other words, like large groups of men, then they tested them and they found, they did used basically statistics to show that the guys that used testosterone had higher levels of cardiovascular. Based on this, suddenly, all these organizations are petitioning the FDA to put what they call a black box warning. In other words, they wanted to put a warning on all testosterone preparations. This drug can cause cardiovascular disease, right? Well, that petition was rejected, and I'll tell you why. Because it turns out that when you take a closer look at these studies, they were statistically wrong. They used a bad statistical method. It turns out that the guys who used testosterone had half the amount of heart disease. Just the opposite. It was all twisted around. And the truth is, if you look at the medical literature, there's study after study over the years show that if anything, testosterone has a protective effect on the heart. For one thing, it widens the coronary arteries, it prevents arteriosclerosis, it does all kinds of things. And if you take testosterone injections, for example, what happens is, you know how it aromatizes, there's an enzyme called aromatase, some of the testosterone, about 10%, is converted to estrogen.
Right.
Well, that estrogen, believe it or not, keeps your arteries supple. This is why women don't get heart disease till they get older, when their estrogen drops. It maintains nitric oxide and keeps your arteries nice and flexible, and helps prevent arteriosclerosis, right? Now, if you're a guy who takes testosterone injections and takes, let's say, an estrogen blocker like Aromatics, now what you're doing now is you're knocking out the protection.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you're going to get cardiovascular disease, but it means that a lot of the good stuff that you're getting from the testosterone is now basically out of the picture.
But they do that to block the water.
They do that to block the water, and there is, of course, some guys do, especially if you have a lot of body fat.
Yeah.
You're going to get an estrogen problem where you can get the bitch tits, gynecomastia, and all that stuff. Now, there's a couple other things that I should point out that the doctors don't like to give testosterone injections. I don't know if you ever experienced that.
I know.
They refuse. They want to give you either the gel or the patch. Or
I've tried that. That doesn't do a thing for me.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Now,
You got 4 minutes.
Okay, the reason why the doctors don't, here's the excuse, because let's talk about testosterone and anthate, which is a common testosterone.
Right.
Now, what happens is it peaks in 48 hours. You get what they call a super physiological effect, meaning your testosterone levels go above the normal amount. Then, after about it gradually lowers. After about 5 to 7 days, it starts to go down. By the end of 2 weeks, it's out, and you get what they call a testosterone crash. So the doctors say, well, injections are non-physiological because they don't maintain an even testosterone. If we give you this gel and you take it every day, you'll have a steady supply of testosterone.
Yeah.
The problem with that is, and this is what you just pointed out, is the gel and the patches, all these other ones besides the injections, they're all designed to basically treat a testosterone deficiency, which is defined as 300 or less, 300 or less on the total testosterone. And the thing is, they're designed to only bring you up to midpoint normal, like about 500. Now, that's okay to knock out the deficiencies, but let's say you're working out, you want to build muscle, it's not enough to build muscle.
I have a friend that doesn't work out, and he was on the gel because he had low testosterone.
Yeah.
And I just talked to him the other day, and he says, you know what, they switched me to the shots, it was like night and day.
Right.
He says, I feel so much better, so much energy on the shots, I didn't feel anything on the gel at all.
Right.
So, and I did the, it was the cream my skin doctor made for me. It had testosterone and DHEA in it. And I would take that along with the shots. I'd rub it on every day. However, I did notice that I did maintain a certain amount of hardness with that I might not have had without it.
Right.
Because I always believe in like a booster shot and then something like a pill to carry it through. Like years ago, we'd do testosterone and then Dianabol.
Right.
You know, our doctor would give you a penicillin shot and antibiotics.
Well, that's a good point. I want to tell you real quick about that, but I just want to add real fast before I forget. The biggest problem, in truth, the biggest problem with testosterone injections has to do with men over 40, who are they're probably the most interested in that.
Right.
The problem is that there's a fairly, it doesn't happen to every guy, but it happens a lot. You get this, what they call erythrocytosis. What that means is that the testosterone, it stimulates the production of excess red blood cells, right? And the reason it does this is that testosterone lowers a substance called hepcidin, which hepcidin normally sequesters iron. But when you take testosterone, you knock out hepcidin, and your body starts to kick, that's great if you have anemia. Yeah. But if you don't, this excess red blood cell causes you get what they call, increases the viscosity of the blood. That could be a problem because that thicker blood is related to heart attacks and strokes.
Question then.
Yeah.
I'm on blood thinners.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah, you wouldn't have any problem.
Okay.
But now you say to me, okay, now how do you treat that? There's only one treatment, phlebotomy. You have to have blood taken. And this is something that nobody knows. What I'm about to say is exclusive for Rick's Corner. You can actually deal with it nutritionally, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways. One of them has to do with, have you heard yerba mate? I might be mispronouncing that.
No.
It's a kind of a tea, I think it is, yerba mate. I might be, yerba mate actually prevents erythrocytosis, right? Remember we've talked about citrulline. Stimulating arginine. Citrulline also helps prevent that, right? And there's one other substance which I can't remember offhand, but those two things, actually, if you take that, there's a substance in, I think it's in, I can't remember, I think it might be in watermelon. Well, maybe it's citrulline. But the thing is, those things will actually help prevent this. But it's a very simple solution, by the way. If you do get it, the erythrocytosis happens when you take 150 milligrams, more than 150 milligrams a week of testosterone. So if you're, you have to, the way you test for a test called hematocrit. If your hematocrit is over something like 57, then that means that your blood's getting too thick. What you have to do then, you have two choices. You can either have the phlebotomy, which is an instant cure, or you can cut down to less than 100, no more than 150, then it will regress, so it'll be okay. So that's the cure.
Or you can take blood thinners.
Or you can take blood thinners. Now, I just want to say also real fast, you mentioned about the boost. Now, there is a problem with testosterone. As you know, we just mentioned how testosterone anthem will peak after 48 hours, then start to go down. Now, you say to me, now, since it's dropping towards the end of the week, now I take a weekly injection. I'm just talking theoretically. I take a weekly injection. Let's see, you're saying by, let's say, the 6th day, it's kind of like starting to get kind of low, right? Is there a way around that? And there is, and this will do two things. You mentioned HCG. Now, what is HCG? HCG, well, without getting into detail, it's produced when women are pregnant, blah, blah. But what it does, it's almost structurally, almost exactly like luteinizing hormone. So what happens is when you take HCG, your body thinks it's luteinizing hormone, and it keeps your testosterone going.
Exactly.
So what you do is, let's say on the 6th day, let's say you took a testosterone injection. On the 6th day, you take one of those insulin needles, you take 250 units of HCG, not the 2,500 used to treat outright hypogonadism, where we're infertile. That's a whole different ballgame. What we're trying to do here is just give you a little boost. You take 250 units on, let's say you take your, testosterone injection on Friday. So on Thursday, the next Thursday, you take, Wednesday. On the next Wednesday, you would take 250 units, you take it subcutaneous right around the belly button area. The next day, on Thursday, you take another 250. This is going to bring your testosterone right up again. Then Friday, you're back to your normal. By doing this, you're doing two things. You're duplicating the creams, but now you're still getting super physiological levels enough to build muscle.
Right.
And you're doing another thing that a lot of guys worry about is when you take testosterone, remember, it turns off your luteinizing hormone. Right? It does. It turns it off. It's a feedback mechanism. And what's going to happen is, you've heard of this, shrunken balls. A lot of guys don't want shrunken
head.
Well, yeah, a lot of guys don't like shrunken balls. It's a cosmetic thing.
I can't imagine why it makes any difference at all.
Well, somehow, a lot of guys think when they drop their pants in front of them, he's got little balls. It doesn't happen.
They get in the way when you cross your legs anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. But what this does is, taking the HCG will prevent the shrinkage of the testicles. And another thing it will do, and this is really great, let's say for some reason you want to take testosterone and you're not an old guy. You're like 25, 30 years old, but down the line, you're saying, hey, you know what? I want to be married and have kids one day. I don't want to chance infertility. If you take the HCG, it will maintain your fertility because it also kind of works with follicle-stimulating hormone to keep the sperm cell going. So you can have your cake and eat it too. You can take your testosterone and just about any amount, and you won't make yourself infertile. So it's a nice little trick. It works well. It's got no side effects. They give HCG. These women are taking with that, that crazy
they
HCG.
use it for fat loss.
Yeah, HCG, which is, by the way, completely bogus. By the way, I get a kick out of that because you see on Dr. Oz, these women go on and say, well, I'm taking the HCG, and well, Dr. Oz says, well, how's your appetite? Oh, I'm only eating 500 calories a day, and I have no desire to eat at all. Now, here's the funny thing. This is what's really interesting.
We've got to close.
Okay, real interesting. I'll do it. The real interesting thing about this is that it's all placebo. In other words, HCG does nothing to turn off. Nothing. It's all in the mind. Shows you how pumped, But I just want to talk real fast about the newsletter.
We're going to do it right now.
Okay, real fast. Applied Metabolics newsletter. It's at www.appliedmetabolics.com. A lot of fantastic articles. I've been getting great feedback. 100% truth. I looked at some of the magazines the other day, and they're pathetic. They're absolutely pathetic. My newsletter. I'm sorry, I got to say it as it is, man. It's not like the days when I used to write for them. I don't know who's writing this stuff, but they must have brain damage. Their articles are awful. But my stuff is loaded with a ton of information. I guarantee you'll learn from it. I mean, right now I'm working, even as we speak, I'm working on an article on how to deal with, what concurrent training is when you do aerobics and weight training. A lot of people are afraid of losing muscle. Guess what? I found a way around that. I found a way where you can do aerobics and not lose a drop of muscle. It's only going to be in my newsletter. You'll never see it in any magazine. Never. Because they'd have to pay me $1 million to write that.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if you get the newsletter, you get a free car, right? You get a brand new car with that.
You get a free Prius with, but except it has no engine. You'll have to supply.
Yeah, that's right. On testosterone.
Yeah.
Well, there you go on testosterone. I think it's you better look into this. If you're going to do it right, and you'll get the results that you want. And it's I don't say no against it. I think that my age definitely I need it.
Yeah.
And it works for me. And that's that. And stay tuned for more Rick's Corner. We'll be back. Hope you enjoyed the video brought to you by Old School Labs. Use my discount code Drayson12 on the link below at oldschoollabs.com. Hey everyone, now you can have the Gold's Gym logo drawn by me, the artist Rick Drayson, personalized and made out to you and signed by me to frame and put on your gym wall or wherever you see fit to do so. It's a piece of bodybuilding history. It will never be duplicated again. It's the largest selling icon t-shirt logo in the world, and I'm the guy that drew it, and I will draw it for you. Just go to my website, rickdrayson.com, and order there. You can pay through PayPal, and it'll be sent out right away. And be sure to watch Rick's Corner for all the videos on bodybuilding, nutrition, fitness, pro wrestling, and anything that suits your interest as far as getting physically fit and being the best you can be from the golden era of bodybuilding.
He's the equalizer, baby. See you next time.